Hallå, Strand.
Good evening, Cornelia, and everyone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, good evening. What's up?
Well, it's been a pretty good weekend with motorcycle fair this Friday, and Saturday. So I'm pretty stoked. But it's been a
Okay.
busy weekend.
Yeah. So we're going to take it in English today, and welcome to our international audience. If you watch it now or later, you are so welcome. And we do this. We both are Swedish, me and Strand, Göran Strand, and we speak English. Why do we do that, Göran?
Well, due to the fact that Sweden is the core of the deep state, and we want to inform the rest of the world that doesn't already know that, what Sweden has been up to and is up to, and what's happening right now in the work of eradicating the deep state.
Yeah. And we have a red wave coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Trump is crushing it. I think he had about 98% in Nevada and 100%, I think, in Missouri. And yeah, I don't know. He's crushing it.
Fantastic figures, actually, and also that we are winning in the what's it called, the in the judge the court cases. So we are winning. Yeah, 3 times.
And someone said that Nikki Haley was only around because she hoped that Trump will be going to jail. But I don't think that matters. Do you?
No, I don't think that would matter in any way, actually, because he would be able to, even if that would happen, which it will not. But I mean, Trump would be able to run the country from the prison if needed.
I mean, other leaders have done that, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just
I do think Nikki Haley sticks around to because she has no other option. I mean, she lost her home state, but she's still around. So I think she needs some exposure, some more exposure. And I call her Nikki Volvo Haley because she's been involved with the Swedish company Volvo, and
it's Latin for I roll.
yeah,
Jag
yeah.
rullar.
So I think she sticks around because she has nothing else. She can't choose anymore.
No. Yeah, and we have so much happening. This is just beautiful. We have the El Salvador president, and he came out during a CPAC last weekend, and he said that, Americans, your problem is not the taxes. Do you know how your government is funded? It's funded by treasury bonds that the central bank creates the money for and pay with money printed out of thin air. And that's illegal. I mean, if they can print so much money, why do they collect taxes, right?
And we have, and I think that it's crucial that everyone understands how money is made and how money is handled in because both the Argent Millet and the and him and Trump and everyone else is now pointing it out, so to speak. So I think it's quite important that you actually spend a bit time to find out how they and listen to them, especially first thing. And the Ecuadorian, I can't remember his name now, but he said it straight up, straight in our faces.
And Milady as well. So they came out at the same time almost. And Trump actually signed, or he sent a post on Truth about this Article 10, state bills of attainder, and this one is really, really important, because here it says black on white that no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender of payment of debt. So the only thing you can repay debt is with coins, gold and silver coins. So they have to be backed by gold or silver. And then Trump also says that he will make sure that there will be no... this is also, we can just finish this one. Pass any bill of attainder. And attainder, that is kind of that you could actually sentence a person without a trial. And that is now illegal. And post facto law and or law impairing the obligation of contracts or grant any title of nobility. So no, you are not noble anymore, Strand? No titles for you?
Never was.
No, not Af or Fon, or how do you say all of them? Yeah,
No.
so yeah, but this is really, really important, because when Trump says that if I become president, I will make sure that there will be no more printing money from the central bank. And that is really interesting that he says that, because right now they are actually printing digital money. I mean, the central banks are, and the Fed or the Swedish central bank, it's not only cash. They are printing digital money. And that is, yeah.
Without being backed of anything. So it's not only unconstitutional, even though we don't have a constitution, but it's from now on against the law.
Yeah, but I mean, what they have, what I figured out that I tried to tell you, but it wasn't sent. And I must put a disclaimer that the last time we spoke in English, so many words, we were actually censored. Some words were censored. So I'm trying again to record this locally and see if I can publish it on Rumble if we have the same issue today. But this is crucial that this message comes out. But the thing is that I will try to explain this. I explained this today for one person in Swedish, and but actually, if we talk about the United States, that's kind of different than the United States. So, okay, so to fund the government, they issue treasury bonds. So the treasury issue bonds, and the Federal Reserve, they buy that debt. Okay, so they buy this treasury bond, and then the treasury has to repay this loan, this obligation or bond. So they take the loan, and then they have to pay interest as well. So, and then they are refinancing that. So when it ends and they have to repay it, let's say after 2 years or 5 years or 40 years even, then they have to repay what is invested, and also repay the interest. So what is actually backing everything is the paper or the promise that you will repay it. So when we say that the whole system is built on trust, what we mean is that the trust is that the treasury now will be solid and be able to repay this. Because if we didn't think that they would be able to repay it, we wouldn't invest, right? We wouldn't buy these bonds. So they are allowed to print this money in order to buy this debt, and what they have as a guarantee is the treasury's promise to repay this loan and interest. So that's what we have. So if you are to buy a house, then you promise to repay that loan, and that security give them the right to print the money. So they are actually printing the money out of thin air. But it's not only the private banks, because the private banks, they are issuing the money when you and I take a loan, and then we use that money in order to pay for food or whatever. But when the central bank does this, they buy debt. So they buy other bonds. It can be company bonds, it can be treasury bonds, it can be other central banks bonds. It can be any bond, and then they can print it, because on the other end you have a promise that you will repay it. So this is the whole scheme is built on one person or entity that promised to repay this. But what happens now with debt saturation is that there is no money. People don't have money. So you have actually countries, you have companies, you have the government. They don't have the money. So how can they refinance this? Refinance is really yeah, it sounds good, but it's not that. It's actually that, okay, the loan ends and you have to repay it, and then you take a new loan, and then you take a new loan. So you actually take new loans in order to repay old debt. So that's the system.
Yeah, and that would be grinding to a halt when liquidity decreases in the system.
Yeah. Or when this refinance thing, when that doesn't work, because you can't find people that are worthy, credit worthy, so to say. They don't have a good credit score, so they won't be able to repay. Because what you look at is this company or person able over time to repay this loan plus interest. So that's why you have to, in order to make this going, the government have to find utgifter. Yeah. They have to find expenses. Yeah. So the government have to find expenses all the time in order to make this work. So you have to have a flow of money, and that's and they find that. And one way of doing that is immigration, right? Another thing is a pandemic or a war, because then they have a budget, and then the treasury emits these bonds, and then you have central banks and investors buying the bonds, and this is how everything, it has to roll. The ball have to be rolling all the time.
And when you have spent when you have tried to make expense rebuilding roads, starting wars, having a pandemic, and
immigration and the climate accord, the Paris Accord, yes. Everything that they can find in order to have an excuse to print more money or to emit more bonds in order to be able to print more money. So this has to be, this is the engine
Yeah. And when
in the whole financial system.
And when that fails, everything starts to deteriorate, like roads, like jobs in hospitals, like all this social fabric is going to break down that we see right now, actually. We have roads not being maintained anymore. We have hospitals, layoff in hospitals and layoffs in private sector and layoffs everywhere, that they can't make that liquidity anymore. So then
no, but if we talk about in Sweden, we have we have layoffs, but at the same time we can read that they have invested money in the stock markets, like 100 billion Swedish krona, but they don't have they have no knowledge about that. No. They're just speculating. They they are losers. They don't know anything about anything, and then they invest 100 billion. I mean, that's a joke.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they lay off 900 people.
Yeah.
For example, in one region in Sweden. So when they can't make, I mean, they have to have a certain pace in order to find all these expenses and print all this money. And when the interest that is due to pay, they are due to pay out interest, they have to create more loans, issue more treasury bonds and so on, or more bonds at least. So they have to issue that all the time, but they can't keep up with the pace that the interest is growing, because that's growing exponentially as well, but in a faster pace.
And that is the quintessence of debt saturation, when the interest runs away from the possibility of repaying the interest.
I have figure out why they increase the interest now, the central bank. I have figured it out.
Okay.
So in Sweden now, in Sweden now it's about 4%. Okay, so we have this system. This is all the banks in Sweden. It's about 27 banks that are in this system with the central bank in Sweden, and this is linked, of course, to Bank for International Settlements. Okay, so this system, all the banks in Sweden that are issuing money when they, when we want to take a loan, they issue the money, right? So this is a system, and right now it's about 1,000 billion Swedish krona in this system. Okay, so when you have, let's say one bank, Bank of America, but in Sweden, SEB, for example, the Wallenberg Bank. Let's say they have money on this, and it's plus. Okay, it's plus. Then they get the interest 4% minus 10 points, so 3.9 they get in interest for every night. But if they feel that we have a lot of money, right, we can buy this weekly bond. So it's like it's a bill of credits, but it's kind of a weak investment for the banks in this system. Then they get the interest plus 10%, so they get 4.10. And since this is a written promise, the same as if you have money in your bank and they say, okay, if you have money in your bank, you will get this interest, right? You will get interest. So the central bank actually, they have the right to print this money. You see? So they print the money. So if they are to pay 4.10% to SEB, for example, for a weekly bond, then they can print this 4.10%. They can print the money. and that's digital, right? So that's also one way of creating liquidity. So they are doing it for themselves,
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Benefiting themselves again.
Yeah. And what he told me that was really interesting, because there is something called Maastricht avtal. How do you say that? Yeah, it's an
Treaty.
Maastricht.
Treaty.
Maastricht treaty.
Treaty.
Treaty. And okay, so what happened? This was when we joined the European Union. So I think it was maybe 94, 95. Then they changed this because the treasury in Sweden, Riksgälden, they also have an account in this Riks, in this closed system for all the banks and the central bank. But they also have, so the government also have an account there. And before, let's say they were on minus one day, let's say 10 billion minus, then the central bank of Sweden actually just printed that money. They just printed it. So they don't hold any cash, but they just print the money for the interest and for the investments. But what they changed there in 94 and 95 was that then this account always had to be zero. So you couldn't have a minus overnight. So before 94, then the central bank just created, if you had a negative account or minus, because you have so many expenses one day, then the central bank of Sweden just printed that money, and that's digital, right? And that's really interesting. So now when they have about 4%, that's an excuse for them to print even more money. So now it's not only when they
make even more money.
Yeah, they print even more money now in order to pay the interest on this account. But let's say SEB has an account, in their account, let's say it's minus. Then they have to pay the interest, alltså reporänta, how do you say that? Hur säger man reporänta på engelska? Yeah, styrränta. Yeah, so the interest of the central bank, then let's say it's minus, then they have to pay that. Then they have to pay, for example, 4 minus 10 points. So 3.9 the private bank has to pay in like punishment because their balance is on minus. So the bank, we also talked about this. I mean, if you come in there and you want to buy a house, you want a loan, they never take already printed money. They always print new money for a new loan, always. But they need this money for investment. They are investing in the stock market. They have personnel, they have offices, and also they have to pay the central bank if their balance is minus on their account, and so on. So they have many expenses. And also when they make a profit, they of course have to pay dividend to the shareholders, right? So they use all this money. They need the money, they want the money. But always, if you're going to take a new loan, they never use already printed money. Never. They always issue a new loan, new money, new money.
What happens if people stop taking loans and the expenses of the bank decrease? So at some point they will not be able to have those money in the central bank account at some point.
Well, I mean, it's what I underestimated before was the role actually that the central bank played. I thought in Sweden that they didn't print any money. I thought they only printed that. Let's say they're gonna send money to the EU or send money to I don't know, for the pandemic or so on. But it's not actually that. They are not the government. They are not the government. It's a treasury, a Swedish treasury. That's Riksgälden. That is actually the government. And this central bank, that is, they have no connection whatsoever, and the politicians has nothing to do with that. The only thing that the role that they play now is that they have this system for all the banks, and also these private banks, it's on Nasdaq. They issue the bonds, the treasury bonds, and the bonds from the Swedish treasury bonds. That's sold on Nasdaq.
On the Wallenberg Nasdaq.
It's owned by Wallenberg Control. Yeah. So it's kind of complicated, but now I know exactly how they do it. So actually, it's the Riksgälden that give out and the treasury that give out the bonds, and in the US, the Fed can actually buy these treasury bonds by newly printed money, and then you have a debt. So they just sign an agreement. They say, okay, we need a loan, and you will have, we will give you this interest, and then they can print the money, and they know that the treasury will repay the loan. That's the same. But in order to get more liquidity, they had to raise the rent, the interest. So, Sishan, we will.
And now we have a situation where banks are making a lot of money.
Yeah. Jag ska se. Styrränta. Yeah. So, yeah, I underestimated their role. Okay. I wrote to someone in the policy rate. Can it be that policy rate or repo rate? I don't know, but yeah, they have a rate of you can say it's a policy rate. So right now it's 4% in Sweden, and that just give them the excuse to be able it's an excuse for the central bank to print more money, to inject more money into the market. And then I heard, from a Swedish man at the Swedish central bank, and he said, like, yeah, but this is central bank money. It's not, we can't use them. We can't buy for them. It's not money that we can hold in our accounts. But that's not true. I mean, if they buy, let's say in Sweden, the central bank is not allowed to buy the bonds directly from Riksgälden or the treasury. They are not allowed to do that. So they have to go on the second market, the stock market, to buy it. So let's say they buy that from SEB, for example. So SEB first buy the bond from the treasury, and then the central bank of Sweden buys that. So they buy the debt, right? And they give the money to SEB because they buy it from them. Then they just print the money, and who will repay those money? Yeah, the treasury, right? Because they buy that debt. So this is so. I mean, yeah. So why even bother? I mean, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if they buy it directly from the treasury or go via a partner. But so let's say the central bank give this money to SEB. They buy that debt, then the money that SEB gets, they can, they can buy whatever they want. They can pay salaries and so on. It's normal money. It's no difference. So there is no such thing as central bank money, but it's digital.
It's all digital.
It's central bank digital currency. It's already existing.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
Yeah,
what will come that is so, and Trump knows this, and that's why this bill is so important. That no state shall coin money, no state shall emit bills of credit, and everything, all these bills, this is what the whole economy is. So it's not backed by gold or anything, but it's backed by promises that I will repay the loan, or the government will repay the loan, or la la la. So it's a promise, and a promise can be broken, right? If I don't have money, I can't repay.
It's always someone promising something.
Exactly. And that's our whole economy. So when we say that it's built on trust, that is exactly what we mean. So what is this promise worth? Let's say let's say they invest in something that just
everyone
goes, like this windmills, and the investment is no good. So all of a sudden it's not worth anything. Then those money.
And if you can't pay back, it's not worth anything anymore. No. So if people get laid off from work and can't pay their mortgages or whatever, then all of a sudden it's not worth anything anymore.
Okay, so they were creditworthy when they took the loan, but then all of a sudden they are not, because they don't have a job, or they are sick and don't have an insurance.
Hear me, because my image just froze.
I can hear you. Petri says a loan contract is cash money. The bank exchange is to a debt for the debtor. Yeah. Are you there? I can hear you.
Yep. You're back. Yeah. Just the image froze for me. So.
Yeah. And also, what is really interesting is that in Sweden we have also these municipalities, and they can actually issue their own bonds. Did you know that? So Stockholm, for example, Linköping,
like the communes.
Kommun, they can issue their own bonds. De kan ge ut obligationer. So they can be financed by now something called municipality invest, kommun invest. So that's kind of the treasury, but for the municipalities. And then they can also issue their own loans. So they say that, okay, lend us this money and we will repay you this plus interest. The same as the Wallenberg airline, SAS. They did that. They were almost bankrupt. And then they said, loan us the money for 3 months, and then you get 27% of interest if we don't go, bankrupt. So that's what was in order to save the company. So everybody knew the risk, but they also knew that the debtors will be paid before the shareholders. So the risk was reduced a little bit. But if they go bankrupt, everybody loses all their money. And that's why the interest was 27%. It was so high because everybody knew that this is, huge risk. So, companies can do this, issue this bill of credits. Municipalities can do it. Regions can do it. So this is a giant hoax. All of it.
I would say, yeah. It's a what's it called, pyramidspel,
Yeah, it's a
pyramid
Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
on a
I
massive scale.
I sometimes hear Americans say that, okay, if the Federal Reserve lend the money to the banks and then they can lend it out to the people up to 10 times. No, that's not correct at all. That is not true. So, but it has to be the El Salvador president that broke this news for the American people. And
They're
we
doing
are.
a very good job. Yeah, they're doing a very good job, I would say.
Mm.
And that was on CPAC.
Yeah, last weekend. And also the Argentinian president was there, and he was so delighted to see Trump. Trump got a big hug. He was so. It felt like they were maybe, into a conspiracy. not conspiracy, but they have something cooking. They have something going on there, and they. When I looked at them, I just felt like this is the winning team.
Yeah. And
yeah.
and when you see them together, you think, oh, there really is a plan. This has been planned for quite some time.
Exactly. So, and and he said that he will jail all the banksters. So if the banks, the central bank or the private bank, issue coin money or emit bills of credit, he said that they would go to jail. It's illegal in Argentina now.
Yeah.
And he just got elected as president, and then now he's just has all these plans with this parallel financial system. So maybe he didn't just go to work one day and said, now I'm the president, I wonder what I'm gonna do as president. Maybe there was a plan.
No, I think maybe there was a plan long ago. The funny part is that both Ecuador and Argentina has long Swedish history, with Hagelin and and Ericsson, of course, and Datasaab, and it's a long history. I've written threads about both Argentina and Ecuador, so it's quite interesting, the history.
This is really interesting what Petri is working on here. I will just read it, what he's saying. A loan contract is cash money. The bank exchanges it to debt for the debtor, right? A loan contract signed with bank ID, that's our digital, how do you say, identification process, is a contract in blanco. This is why the bank never showed the original. It's because it's sold at the time it was signed. So let's say you sign it, then they sell it. So they sell the debt exactly as the central bank buy this treasury bonds from the second market, from the stock market, right? Stock exchange.
So it's just like factoring then.
Yeah, and the region is signed also. It's sold at the time it was signed, and the original is signed also by the bank. In court, judge says the bank can print new originals because it's electronic signed. So you sign it in blanco. Let's say you want to loan 1 million. Then they don't fill in the figure. That is kind of in blanco. And I think it has to be that. You know why? Because they don't know exactly how much the interest will be. So they don't know how much you, really has to repay.
Oh, because the interest is outside of the
Yeah, but they can't write that. So instead of writing, okay, you loan 1 million, then they put that in blanco in their system. He has found out that from I don't know, from court papers. I don't know. Peter, you will have to discuss that with us sometimes. But it makes sense to me because they don't know exactly how much you are. I mean, with the treasury bonds, they know exactly. Okay, you invest 1 million, and the interest is 2%. Then they know exactly how much they have to repay. But to the debtor, but for us, they don't know what the interest. It can, fluctuate over time.
Yeah, it can differ.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's something I have to look into.
Yeah, but I have everything. I have recorded the calls. So I have everything now. I know exactly. But I mean, I think there is a reason why they talk to me for like 80 minutes now. Why do they talk with me for 80 minutes? I mean, that's a lot of time for them.
Yeah.
And I will call next time, and hopefully I get another 40 minutes. I think I will. But why do they respond to me and explain in such detail?
For us to inform everyone else.
Yeah, I know, but that has to be, said that you are going to talk to her. I don't know. But this is so strange. It's 80 minutes is a lot of time.
Yeah, and I do think they have their orders, and like they didn't know who you were. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think they do. Some of them, at least.
I think so too, because it would be a grave mistake not to check up.
Tjänstefel.
Yeah, and then speak freely with someone. For it's so very un-Swedish to do. To say the least. It's very un-Swedish. So no, I do think they have checked you up, and they know that you will inform forward.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's really, really interesting. And now I know exactly. And also something that is really, really interesting. We had a manager of the central bank in Sweden, Stefan Ingves. And, his CV is, he has been, let's see. Yeah, you can tell a little bit about him.
Yeah, it's been 17 years as the head of the Central Bank of Sweden, or the Riksbanken, and his assignment ended the last of December 2022. Yeah, 2022.
Okay, so we're going to talk about him. This is really interesting. So here he is, and he explains to us that he is a shaman and wizard. No, but he has to, since everything is built on trust, he has to work with that. How do you say that? Shaman, vad säger han? What did he say that he was?
Shaman or estradeur.
Yeah.
I don't know the English word for estradeur, but
Yeah.
that's original French, so I guess maybe it's the same in English.
Okay, so he is Bank for International Settlements. So he was the member of the board of directors. He has been a member of the Standing Committee, Supervisory and Regulatory Cooperation for the Financial Stability Board. And he has also been for the International Monetary Fund, a board member, Board of Governors, and 17 years for for the Swedish Riksbank, and also from 2011 up to 2019, he served as a chairman of the Basel Committee of Banking Supervision. So this is also, so he's been, in everything: Bank for International Settlements, in International Monetary Fund, and Financial Stability Board, the Basel Committee of Banking. So he's been everywhere. And when he ended his career, he went directly to Handelshögskolan, and that's actually a university that is run by the Wallenbergs. So he is now Stockholm School of Economics. So he's there now. But what's interesting is that he had to write this like memoirs almost, about this is what he had to write. This is about the Swedish role in the international economic cooperation, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And this is 22 pages where he explained exactly the role of Sweden, and also what he says here on page 9, which is really interesting, is that that Sweden was, funding partner of the Bank for International Settlements. So they actually they started that together with the Dulles brothers and so on. And they were co-owners, and they were also, of course, and he says already from the start. And this is something that Swedish Riksbank was, they were starting this Bank for International Settlements. That was new.
Yeah, that is huge to find that in writing and from the horse's mouth, actually.
Yeah, and we have never been able to read this. So this is rewriting of the Swedish history. And he also continues here to talk about that, how they were ruling the IMF and the UN and the Bretton Woods and the World Bank. So they have been, on top of this, managers for that, and they started it together and so on. And this is estradeur is stand-up comedian. Yeah, you can say that. Shaman and entertainer. Yeah, so his role is to make sure that sorry for that. His role is actually to make sure that we trust this system and that we believe in this system. That's but this is kind of a confession. And I don't think he did this voluntarily. I think he had to write this, actually. Stefan Ingves, he had to write this about the Swedish role in the whole financial system.
Yeah, and we spoke on the phone about this, and I read the whole thing, and his final words I found pretty interesting, because he says in the final words at the end of that article, I have tried to give my perspective on Swedish rules in its international cooperation, how it has developed historically, which factors explains our prioritization of multilateral cooperation, and the relatively large influence that we have had for a long time, but also the challenges we face in the form of global and regional shifts in different power relations. If you are not aware of these changes conditions, it is easy to be led to believe that our international influence is greater than it actually is. And that will be to maintain our self-determination and influence if we just sit still in the boat. That is a quote from meaning doing nothing. So with this situation that we have now, they didn't anticipate to sit still in the boat. I believe that it is a serious misconception. We need to have a serious discussion about Sweden's future role within, for example, EU cooperation, which is based on the insight that things change quickly and that we as a small country depend on foreign trade, must relate to these new conditions. So with the Trump and the taking down of the deep state and whatnot. So the latest development in Eastern Europe puts these challenges in flashlight and shows how quickly and unexpectedly changes can take place and how important it is to have preparedness and an institutional ability to handle unforeseen situations. That's summarize his long article or whatever you call it.
Yeah, and he's also talking about that we are going to a multipolar world. That so what we have come from is a unipolar world with almost a global currency, the dollar. I mean, we have heard from SEB that actually 90% of global trade is done in dollar. So it's I mean, for all the stakeholders in this system, because you can call them stakeholders because they all benefit from this system. And that's why, you know, when we send money to Ukraine, for example, they launder that money to go back to the US. And why do they do that? Because they need the dollar to be dominating, because the whole system is built on the domination of the dollar. But now with the de-dollarization and all the countries ditching the dollar, it's not enough. They have to launder even more. And Sweden have sent 29 billion krona already. So and they have to continue to do that. And it was so hilarious when not hilarious, but when McGregor said that, you know, I'm not worried about the aid because it's just going right back to the US. so they know exactly that they have to inject. So this is an injection, but also an excuse to print more money from the central banks or from the treasuries worldwide. So
there is another quote from Ingves that is also pretty telling. The basic question if Sweden should relate to is if we sit as a part of the table, then, or if we stand outside. In English, it is called rule maker or rule taker. Even if our influence at the table still will be limited, I'm convinced that there will be more of the latter. So he's anticipating to be a rule taker.
Yeah.
So from
the domination is gone.
Yeah. So losing control of BIS and the IMF and the UN
and the EU and the UN, of course, all of them. The World Health Organization. It's because also the World Health Organization, you know, Sweden meant to send someone there and say, you're going to work there, and then the World Health Organization just said, no, we don't want him. So, but I mean, back in the days, Sweden was just able to say that no, he's going to the IMF, he's going to the UN, he's going to World Health, but now the tables has turned and they are not dominating. They are not able to do that.
They are not rule makers anymore. No. They are rule takers. So
exactly.
that is
Mm. Scammers.
Yeah, I hope everyone reads this because it was unfortunately it's in Swedish, but
It's pretty easy to just I can send the link maybe.
yeah, you can use Google Translate. I guess.
That's really easy because this is really, and this is the whole history of the financial system as we know it, and also his how he see the future, and this
So
is
when I tried to translate this page, it says that it doesn't handle Swedish.
okay.
I just tried it, and it says we don't handle Swedish.
No, I think it's kind of I will send the link here for you in the chat now. So and also, I mean, we have this Finnish Swedish guy Andrea, and he is so great. He's translating, our last
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Andre.
thank you, Andrea. Our last episode was almost 3 hours. Did you have so much
Yeah.
to say? Guess not.
No, we just talked.
3 hours. It didn't feel like it, but it was.
No, time just flies. There's so much happening
Mm.
that I think we could sit and talk for 6 hours without any problems, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And now we have the DOJ working overtime, right?
Yeah. That
Yeah.
is also, it's kind of huge, actually, because
Yeah.
everyone remembers that both ABB and Ericsson was fined fined by the DOJ and then taken over by the Space Force. But now we also have a company called Gunvor, and that is it's SN vidare also, because they have been acting without being seen. It's a clandestine company for most people, actually. And the CEO is called Torbjörn Törnqvist, and he's doing oil business, and he's also a consul in Switzerland for Sweden. So, and he has a long history with the Lundin family, who is now under investigation for crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
So they know each other very well, and this was I think it was Friday, the 2nd of March. Yeah. So DOJ actually.
No, Saturday. I think.
Saturday, okay,
Yeah. So this is $660 million, and this is bribes, and he was working actually. This is the friend of Carl Bildt, the bloody Swede, and also Lundin, and they are on trial for, as you said, crimes against humanity, and they were actually shooting people from the helicopters.
Yeah.
And this is also oil, so they are working together, and now so this is great. We know that DOJ is under continuity of government, so they are reporting to the Space Force, but still they are in order for the government to continue, they are working as they always do, right? So they are keeping everything going. That's a continuity of government. But for me, this was because now we have Lundin, we have Ericsson, we have Telia, and now this. So the circle is narrowing.
So I'm reading from the actual page of the DOJ. So commodities trading company will pay over $661 million to resolve foreign bribery case. And that is the Office of Public Affairs. So Gunvor is the actual company, an international commodities trading company based in Switzerland. Yeah, but it's Swedish company.
Yeah.
Has pleaded guilty and will pay over $661 million to resolve an investigation by the U.S. Justice Department into violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FCPA. And they have committed and also erkänt, confessed to the bribes.
Allegations. Yeah, exactly. And also here it says that this corruption accused oligarch, this man, Torbjörn Törnqvist, he was working for Carl Bildt, and this was published 2014, right?
Yep.
And here it says that this oligarch is actually working for Carl Bildt. He was the foreign minister and the prime minister, right?
And that is actually about Ukraine.
It says that a Ukrainian organization against corruption is pointing to this billionaire Torbjörn Törnqvist as one of the oligarchs behind the Putin regime. And it said that he is also working as a consul for the Swedish foreign department.
Yeah.
Foreign, how do you say that? Yeah. And it says here that he is working actually for Carl Bildt. So this is the reason why we have to look at old articles as well, and that's why the trolls are saying that this article is from 2019 and this is from 2014, but this is just a sign of strength that we know that this is this ties in with the Ukraine and oil and bribery schemes and so on.
And there is actually more about the company Gunvor, because in 2019 also Gunvor was in Congo. So if you search for Gunvor, you will find an English link or English tweet about Gunvor as well. So the sentencing of Gunvor in October 2019 by the Federal Prosecutor's Office to pay a fine total nearly 94 million francs on the grounds of corruption of public officials in the Republic of Congo and the Ivory Coast largely confirms the result of our investigation. So, and if that was not enough, there is another link down below. How the Gunvor case revealed the heart of the corruption. And that is from the Enact Africa. It's from their site where they talk about the Gunvor camp and the Lundin. So I've been writing a lot about Lundin and Carl Bildt and Gunvor, and they all stick together, actually. Unfortunately, I have to say, because they're not known for something good anyway. So
no, but this is about the Trump call it the gold of, what did he say? The gold of the soil. Something he called the oil, the gold of the
black gold.
Yeah, something like that. No, not black gold, but the gold of the soil or something like that. Markens gold or something like that. So it was really interesting that, I mean, that is also, I mean, there is actually, it's not fossil. How do you say? It's not fossil. Fossil. Yeah. It's not fossil. I mean, it's not.
No.
So that is also a scam, but most of us know this, but Trump knows it definitely. And I mean, so what these companies, Swedish companies, have done all over the world, I mean, and what they have done to the local, the local population has been
Yeah, it's crime against humanity, and all. I mean, in Sudan, where Lundin also Lundin has been active in most of the African countries and also on the South American part of the world, and in Canada and in Russia and in Nagorno-Karabakh and all over the place, and all kinds of crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
And I think I have written about Lundin, all the countries where they have been busy. So they have been both oil and diamonds, and it's called Lucara diamond, and they pick up huge diamonds from Africa every now and then, and especially from Congo. So
is it Lucara or Lusara? I don't know. It's a C. Lusara,
yeah,
Lucara, something like that.
Yeah.
And they have found so huge diamonds in different countries. I think in Mozambique and they just came there and took it.
Yeah, they just steal it as
They
easily.
steal it, and Trump said that if you steal a diamond and get caught, you will have to give it back.
Yeah.
And that's our promise, and we stand on that promise actually, because we think that they have stolen from us and they got caught, and they will have to give it back. And Travis Wagner asked if when in 2014 it was published. My computer died again, and it was full just a couple of 1 hour ago. It was full battery, and now it's dead. Okay, I will see if I can find it here. It's on your thread, right, about Gunvor.
Yeah. So this was the Gunvor in Congo was published. Just a second.
No, this about Ukraine and Carl Bildt. If it was before and after the Maidan. It was a very. I agree, Travis. That was a really interesting year.
In March, 11th of March, 2014.
And when was Maidan? That was in September, right?
That was in September. So this must be 5-6 months before Maidan.
Maidan.
I think it was it was either in September or October, I think.
Maidan, Ukraine. Let's see here. It was actually... No, it was in February.
In February?
Yeah. So it was so early. Yeah. The Maidan took place. So this was this was almost at the same time.
Yeah.
And actually they suggested that Carl Bildt would be the prime minister of Ukraine.
Yeah.
And then this dude shows up and says that he's working for him and he's an oligarch and he's corrupt as hell, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting actually, Travis. That it was right after the Maidan. And
yeah, right after, like couple of weeks.
Yeah, and then since exposing Carl Bildt directly after Maidan, that means a lot actually.
Yeah.
So you're right there, Travis. Yeah, interesting.
We love this instant feedback, don't we? You know, to have this communication, because it's so good. I mean, we are doing research and sharing it, and then you add to it and give us, to broaden the scope, right? So
there is another international thing that also caught my attention, and that was regarding Haiti. with Jimmy Barbecue Charissier.
Barbecue, is it that his name?
No, he's called Barbecue.
Ah.
And I made funny about that. I wrote, rather a barbecue than a neurosurgeon with a medical career with handicapped children in Haiti. So the prime minister or president, actually, Jovenel, he was murdered, and the current president is, they think that he did it. And now there is a gang leader called Jimmy Barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And he's starting a riot in Haiti to take on the prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
So that I found that, and the prime minister's name is Ariel Henry, or Ariel Henry in English. And we know that Haiti has been a lot of Clinton Foundation. We have a lot of Swedish companies like Ericsson and the Tetra Pak and a lot of other Swedish companies. And we know that Sweden is one of the most Clinton Soros friendly countries in the world. So making that change after they murdered the last president, who I thought was really, really good. And then this Henri comes along. Yeah.
We have he's really fun, and he says that our English suck, and that may be so. And Sos Kenneth, I think you should do. You do your own channel. I
haven't seen his lives.
No, I haven't.
So check that out and keep your eyes on Haiti the coming week here, because I do think that there is some changes, and we might make away with Ariel Henry. I hope.
Yeah. And Travis says, so Maidan happens and he's convicted. So the actual bribery would have happened before or during Maidan. Can you read the report? This was many years, right? This bribery schemes, but you're right. When they knew about this oligarch and his connection with Ukraine and Russia and so on, and Carl Bildt, not to say the least.
Yeah, what they did was a setup with the oligarchs. Putin did a setup with the oligarchs. So of course, this has happened before, and that is a way of, since it is a sting operation, I think it's a clear setup of the oligarch, and the point of exposing that directly after Maidan, I can only speculate, but that would be to get everyone aware of it, I guess.
Yeah, and Deripaska, yeah, he was signing an agreement with it was like a table, and you have different person and you have Putin there, and Deripaska he signed something, and then he didn't give back the pen. You remember that?
Yeah, he tried to steal the pen from Putin.
Yeah, he tried to steal. Idea. This was a show, but he took the pen, and then Putin said, no, give me the pen. So this was so, and Deripaska, he has a business in the north of Sweden called vad heter det? His factory up there.
Yeah.
In
Sundsvall.
Yeah, in Sundsvall. This Paul. But now they say that we will find
Kubal.
Kubal, and that now they say that they will be taking over that, right? Just the other day. So from this oligarch.
Yeah.
So they will seize it from him, and that is actually what is happening. You know, I heard that there was kind of a resort on one island where people go as, you know, tourist island, and it was a big resort there, and they say it was owned by oligarchs, Russian oligarchs. But they had disappeared. This is actually true, right? So the Russian has disappeared. So the local population that lived there, some of them have moved into this resort. Okay, so but the problem is that the oligarchs, they don't actually own the resort, because they did a scheme in South Africa. So they had some, I don't know, analphabets, you know, that signed. They didn't know what they signed. So it was actually owned by, I think, about 100 South Africans that didn't even know that they owned this resort.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I told you this. Yeah. And then, you know, I've been into finance, and I have a lot of connections. And they said that, Cornelia, this is a good opportunity. If we just go to South Africa and make these locals to sign it over, we can take it, because the Russians, you know, they can take it, because, you know, and I was like, are you out of your mind? This is a sting operation, and Putin know exactly about this. So they have actually fooled these South Africans. So they didn't know that they own the resort, and I don't know what else they own, you know, without knowing.
No, they just signed the papers. Or
Yeah. So okay, so they suggested that I go to South Africa together with a few others to make these locals, and of course they bribed like a politician or something, you know. They bribed them in order to be able to make them sign, and they didn't know what to sign. You know, the government or someone, you know, from the municipality there came and said, yeah, you will sign this, and they, right, maybe they just took, you know, their print, and all of a sudden they owned a resort. And
I wouldn't want to get involved actually when Putin and in this sting operation, and putting my hands in that jar.
Are you joking? I was like, I would never dare, you know. So I mean, there could be some Russian oligarchs or Putin that maybe knows more about their resort than I do.
Yeah, the problem for the oligarchs is that what they have done, they have been stealing from Mother Russia, and that will not be viewed gently by Russia. So all the oligarchs have either just stepped into the trap or been a part of the trap.
That is a key word, trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of things is a trap.
And I do think Oleg Deripaska actually was part of the trap, and that stands for me. But I do think that he has been a trap for the
a honeypot.
Yeah, honeypot. Yeah, for Sundsvall.
Yeah, so
for Sundsvall.
He make a scene, you know, steals Putin's pen, and then Yeah, for Sundsvall, exactly. And this is in order to, this is a setup, this is sting operation in order to expose the institutionalized,
Institutionalized
yeah,
corruption.
corruption. Say that one more time, so we get it on tape.
Institutionalized institutionalized corruption,
Exactly.
and in Sundsvall that is rampant, so to speak.
Mm. So I think that's many of them have been taking money, and that is, by the way, being exposed all of the time now in Sweden. That yeah, government employees have taken bribes, and
Yeah,
I mean, for like 5 years ago, I didn't believe that was the case. I was like, Sweden, we don't have any corruption at all, but we were so wrong.
it has been so many corruption cases in
Mm,
Sundsvall that I don't even bother writing about it anymore.
mm,
It's it's gone rampant, actually. It's on all levels of that municipality, and I do think that
mm,
it will look exactly the same in the rest of Sweden, but we'll see about that. We're speaking
mm.
a lot about Helsingborg, and that is also in other.
Travis says SBU snipers were found guilty of accepting a large bribe to
Yeah,
make Maidan a massacre. It was never mentioned who paid the bribe. Interesting, Travis.
yeah. I think I shared that
Yeah,
also.
Cabal it's called.
Yeah,
And Ulf says that reporenta in English is policy rate, and in the US US is often called base rate. Yeah, base rate. Yeah. Um, and
and also when speaking about Russia,
mm,
there was German military officials that planned an attack on Russia's Crimea bridge,
mm,
aiming for strategic and political impact. So, and that was they were supposed to use the Taurus,
mm.
and the Taurus is joint venture by a German company and Saab in Sweden. So it's a Swedish.
Mhm.
The Taurus is a Swedish explosive.
Yeah.
So
And
what?
and the problem was that Russia, they knew about that call. I
Yeah,
wonder how
of course I did.
they knew about it, and that was according to Swedish newspaper, that was a disaster.
Yeah,
Disastrous call.
catastrophe. Yeah,
Yeah, catastrophe. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, so for those who don't know or follow, so Russia, Putin and Trump are working together.
yeah,
They're working together, and also together with Xi. So there are several countries. Actually, in the beginning, it was 17 countries working together in order to drain the swamp, take down the deep state, and eliminate it, but also expose it for us to see. Because now I can clearly see the corruption in Sweden. Before I didn't. So it has worked on me.
yeah. And I do think that it works on every other Swede as well, but it just takes a bit longer time because right now it was 20 hours ago, but there was a tweet about the British troops are directing airstrikes in Ukraine at the same time as uh, the the um, the Germans was discussing. So now there are British troops are directing airstrikes in Ukraine, and I'm not sure yet, but might that be a Saab Global Eye?
Mhm.
I do think that can be the Saab Global Eye, and that will then affect Sweden
Mhm.
in a And there was also, let's see, the Gateway Pundit wrote about World War III watch. British troops are directing airstrikes in Ukraine. Germany discusses blowing up bridges in Crimea. The globalist elite want their world war. And that was 3rd of March. So that was today, actually. So we're closing in on the precipice, I guess.
Yeah, we are. And it was an article about Haiti, they say. Haiti, 4,000 prisoners were released.
Okay.
4,000 prisoners were released. It was a shooting between the police and heavily armed gang members. So the gang members, they stormed a prison in Haiti.
3 hours ago, yeah.
And 4,000 men has escaped.
Haiti's national penitentiary, with nearly 4,000 inmates, thought built to hold only 800, has several high-profile inmates, such as the Colombian commandos accused of being part of the group that killed Haiti's president, Jovenel Moise. And inmates escaped. So that was 3 hours ago. Yeah, things happening fast.
Yeah, and also there was a diplomatic car that was just abandoned on the train tracks.
Yeah.
And they won't tell us what where the diplomats came from or what the country. Well, they won't tell us.
Yeah,
So,
and the Swedish police actually said, "We're not telling you. We're not telling you whose car it was. We're not telling you."
Okay.
But then,
we get it.
But then a couple of hours later, it came out that it was the embassy car of the Ethiopian embassy. And then we are back in deep state Sweden and Ethiopia.
Yep.
Right down in the middle. So Sweden has a long history with Ethiopia. Ericsson has done business since 1894, and the military in Ethiopia was blamed for a mass shooting on civilians, and Haile Selassie was visiting Ericsson when I can't remember when that was, but there is so many connections with Sweden and Ethiopia, all the way back to missionary time. And Reverend Carl Cederqvist was the first missionary ever in 1904, and he reached Addis Ababa and started a school and medical clinic, and it goes on and on and on. Swedish companies are accused for land grabbing in Ethiopia. Lundin is aiding ethnic cleansing in Ethiopia. And Swedish justice has been in Ethiopia since 1946 until 1955. So by putting a car on the railway, that got me started to exposing the links between Ethiopia and Sweden, the long history and complex history, to say the least. Because it's not, it actually says Ethio-Swedish relations began in 1866, when the first Swedish missionaries landed in Massawa. Swedish missionary societies offered education and medical care in areas where there were no government schools or hospitals. So at least at the end of the 19th century. So it's crazy. Just Google Ethiopia and Sweden, and you will find a treasure trove of things.
But I think we should look at, in Sweden, if we have a large population from, let's say, Sudan or Ethiopia or Afghanistan or so, we should look at really closely, because then it means automatically that we have done a lot of damage to their country, and that's the reason why they are here.
Yeah, in all cases, actually, from beginning from we have Korea, we have from Chile, we have from Sudan, we have Congo, we have
Venezuela, we have Ecuador,
the list goes on.
Peru.
And all you have to do is Google Google the country and Ericsson to start with, and I promise you, you will find a long history of Ericsson's doing in that country where the refugee comes from. So it's been like that, and it's too sad, actually, because what we have done is not we, but the finance
a couple
elite,
of Swedes,
has actually fucked up their home countries and brought the people here instead.
They have killed and stolen and just left it in ruins, and devastating. It's
and taking possession of digging up gold, taking the oil, all the natural resources they have been stealing, and all the way to Yugoslavia and former Yugoslavia.
Okay, now this is really interesting, because Annika, were you done?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Annika says Mike Pompeo was the manager for CIA. And when we look at CIA and all of the overthrows in Latin America and everywhere, that's, regime changes. And if we look at their connection, the Dulles brothers and the OCC, and if we look at that history together with Wallenberg and how Sullivan and Cromwell and how they represented the Wallenberg, then you have it. They are in bed, they are working together, and so of course Mike Pompeo, he knew everything about their tactics, and as Erik Hayes said, right, that Putin worked for the KGB.
Yep.
Yeah, so he is KGB and Mike Pompeo is CIA. So what we have is people with intel. They know exactly what this is, and he says that in the 1980s, Putin worked for KGB, and among other things, he assisted a Swedish management member in the transport company Schenker. So Putin had things clear on a very early point. So, and that is exactly right. So what you have is people with insights, intel, and influence. They have turned. So they are now working with this constellation that are draining the swamp and exposing and eliminating the deep state. So if you have a CIA, boss in Mike Pompeo, and then you have it all, and the NSA and.
Imagine the fear in deep state Sweden when Putin was elected as a president in Russia, because they knew that Putin knew everything about Sweden, just about everything. And the things he didn't know, he got to find out when he got president. So right there and then, they started to hate Putin in Sweden and make all kinds of narratives in media. So imagine the fear in the Swedes, deep state Sweden, when
yeah, because then the propaganda, then it was on steroids, point 2.0. But I mean, so we have always heard that the Russian will come and take our country, but then after Putin got elected, then it was panic.
Yeah.
And then he had cold eyes, and he was cruel and mean, and
then you have the same thing with Belarus or Belarus, it's called, with Lukashenko. Lukashenko know everything there is to know about Ericsson.
Yeah, and he exposed, the IMF, and said that, okay, they didn't want to give us the aid if we didn't have strict restrictions during the pandemic. So he just outed them. He didn't care. And they have tried to do this rainbow revolution, and he is working together with Putin, so they can do whatever they want. But Belarus won't, they won't fall for it.
And then you have Erdogan, who also knows everything about Sweden and the PKK and all the terror organizations that Sweden has funded. And so we are in a trap. Not we, but the deep state Sweden is in deep trouble, actually.
Yeah, it's I call it the terrorist crisis.
Yeah.
So we have many crises, right? We have the climate crisis, we have the terrorist crisis. So it's not really easy to be a criminal. We have a criminal crisis. I mean, it's really, the criminals have a hard time. They get caught all the time.
Yeah.
Something has changed, in the intel and how you use the information.
Yeah, and as I wrote, as I have been writing a lot about since I live where I live, near to the center of the drug handling in Helsingborg.
Yeah, the harbor, and that harbor is really yeah. And it's a you have both the trains and the lorries, and you have the boat. You have everything there.
Yeah, it's a geostrategic
lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was it has been going on since forever, and a lot of people knows about it. So when they tried to smuggle a lot of cocaine from Rotterdam to Helsingborg, they exchanged the cocaine to fake cocaine and stamped it with Putin. And then they sent it to the harbor of Helsingborg, and then they arrested, I think it was 4. Initially there was 2 people. I think it ended up with 4 people being arrested for that drug smuggling attempt.
Yeah, maybe that, but you remember, and I said that this was a crime provocation, when it was a container that came to Helsingborg.
Yeah.
And they knew it contained a lot of drugs, cocaine.
Yeah.
But the prosecutor said that they should let it pass. So they let it pass. So it went through the harbor and away. And then they arrested 7 people.
Yep.
And that is a crime provocation, because, normally they don't work like, it's not legal in Sweden to provocate a crime. So you can't do a sting operation and be undercover. And in Sweden, that is not allowed. because we are this superpower, humanitarian superpower, so it's not allowed here. But this was more like, this was kind of a sting operation. This was kind of a provocation, a crime provocation, because if you have a big container with cocaine and you let it pass, you let it go to the people, and then you bust them, you take 7 people, you arrest 7 people when they try to take these drugs. That is something has changed, Gesland.
Yeah, and especially the jurisdiction or the legal system has to be changed, as we have spoken about before. So we both know that it's a different jurisdiction now than the Swedish legal system, not being valid anymore. So that is another.
It's on
proof.
hold.
Yeah,
it's on hold. Maybe forever. Hopefully.
Yeah, and that is another proof that it has to be that way. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a sting operation.
It's on pause. No, but we believe that we have the law of war. So it's actually American war jurisdiction here as well. And that our so-called, and what we found out, if we talk about Bank for International Settlements and so on, sorry, it was that, they have this arbitration court. And that is like a parallel judicial system, but that is kind of the real system, because all of the really big money is being handled there, not in our. You have like our courts and so on. That's more for like shoplifters and I don't know, but nothing of importance. And then you have this arbitration court, and that's where the real settlements is happening.
Yeah, and I was researching the Ukraine intelligence the other day, and I found the Swedish. Let's see if I find it again, because I found the Swedish arbitration court in the Wikipedia site of GRU.
Yeah, because what they have done with the arbitration court. Okay, it was funded. They started it in Sweden in 1917, and then in the 30s, when they started BIS, Bank for International Settlements, they moved the arbitration court, or maybe they did a filial in the Bank for International Settlements. And then we know that the Wallenberg, Peter Wallenberg was, or was it Marcus? Yeah, Wallenberg was the chairman and the president of the arbitration court in Bank for International Settlements. And now we know, thanks to Stefan Ingves, that actually Sweden, the Swedish central bank, was working with them to start Bank for International Settlements. And then it was moved again, so now it's not in the Bank for International Settlements. Now it's with all this chamber of commerce, and you have them all over the world, and within that system you have this arbitration court. So actually the headquarters of all arbitration courts is in Sweden. So you have like the chamber of commerce. On top of that, you have the kind of the top of all chamber of commerce. That is where Wallenberg is the boss, and also in this arbitration committee. And they are, of course, taking care of the finances. So they are in charge of the finances of this chamber of commerce and arbitration court. So
I see that either it has been removed or I can't find it again. I was thinking about writing a thread about it, but I have to see if I find it later. So, but there was a mention about arbitration court, and that financed part of the Ukrainian intelligence. But I will get back to that.
Yeah, Annika Nilsson said that for arbitration, there is a 1958 year New York Convention about confession and arbitration of foreign arbitration or settlements that Sweden and over 140 other countries are working with. So this arbitration is actually represented in 140 countries, and the head of that is Wallenberg.
Yep.
Mm.
So it is what it is, unfortunately. For the majority of the Swedes, unfortunately.
Yeah. See if there's anyone else. Yeah, it's a lot of things. And isn't Tedros? He's from Ethiopia, right?
Yep, and he's also from Umeå.
So he's the general manager of the World Health Organization,
yep.
Tedros, and he is from Ethiopia, and he is. He was he charged or just accused of crimes against humanity there?
Well, he was at least under suspicion of.
And then he was also studying at he was a doctor, right? At Umeå University.
He studied at Umeå University.
Yeah. Susanne say, what if the pandemic was also was also to get help organizations like MSB and SIDA to not be able to operate in such countries? I know of people working in Ethiopia, Somalia, who were not able to travel. Yeah, I think that if we talk about SIDA, that's the government aid from the Swedish government aid. That's called SIDA, and MSB is like what do we say? MSB. What are they doing? It's like FEMA.
Yeah.
It's like FEMA in the US, and actually, if you are an NGO and you receive money from SIDA, your account will be flagged for terrorist funding. So now it's impossible actually for NGOs to receive aid money from SIDA. And remember now that this is a governmental organization for aid money.
I think the pandemic had so many levels of so many things to fulfill and used in so many ways, both against and for the patriots, working for the patriots. And it was one giant sting operation in my book, one hell of a sting operation. And then explaining it in terms of economic and election and all those aspects of the pandemic, how they used it, and is our job to put a finger on, actually.
Yeah.
So I think she's right. That is one part of the to weaken the globalists abroad in their corruption.
Yeah, and Susanne also said that he was involved in at least 2 bioweapons experiments on his people of Ethiopia.
Yeah, and he was never charged, I think, but he was under suspicion.
Mm.
I don't think he ever got charged.
No.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
No, but he was saved by the clock. He went to
Yeah,
Sweden. He
yeah,
went to Umeå. You know.
yeah,
Mm. So the Wallenberg took, you are that kind of criminal, then we take you
yeah. We take
under
care of
our wings. You can have this job at the World Health Organization, and you can have this title at the university here in Umeå. Just come here. We like people like you. Crimes against humanity, you say, that's perfect.
I think
You
I think
suits
he
right
was,
in here.
I think he was under the wings of the Wallenbergs way before that, actually.
Yeah. I know.
Already in Ethiopia.
Yeah,
I understand.
exactly. Yeah, I know. Okay, Strand, thank you so much for today, and thank you to our audience. And he was, oh, I just read the comment here. Susanne said, I think he was charged but not convicted. Okej, så han stod åtalad så här, men blev aldrig dömd.
Yeah.
So that's and maybe he received this government money. You know, if you get a child support, then we have we will take that one time. All these foreign leaders in Afghanistan, Iraq, Ethiopia. You know, we have a person from Sweden there. I think the president of Ethiopia actually is a Swedish citizen.
Yeah, I think so too. Or if it was the finance minister, something like that.
Yeah, I wrote a piece about that, but that's really interesting. And actually, one of them in in Afghanistan, he, he took this child support money.
Yeah.
While he was living in Afghanistan, and he was the advisor to the president of the Afghanistan president. He that flee with the money in the helicopter or in the cars. There are different stories. We don't know exactly, but he fled the country with cash, and the Swedish advisor that took this child support money illegally, he went with him.
That's
So,
how stupid it is. That's how stupid it is. And still no one suspects anything. Just, okay.
we do.
Yeah, we do, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. We hang around on X and do our research, and next Sunday we will talk in Swedish. So
Yeah.
every second time it's in Swinglish, and other times is Swedish, Swinglish, Swedish, whatever.
We do our best.
Yeah, we do. Okay, Gerstrand, thank you so much, and thank you to the audience.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Take care now, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.